Welcome to Squatch-D where the truth is first before all else. Join your hosts, veteran investigator, TV personality, and author Steve Kulls, and from the Kentucky Bigfoot Research Project and the Kentucky Fried Fixes channel, Chris Bennett. Sit back and prepare to take yourself on a journey with the longest-running Bigfoot podcast, Squatch-D. Here are your hosts, Steve and Chris.
And good evening, cyberspace. Welcome to Squatch-D for today's date, May 11th, 2025. I'm your host, your guide, the Squatch Detective, Steve Kulls, along with my co-host right down there, Mr. Chris Bennett. Hello, Chris.
Steve, man, it's good to see you. I hope everything's going for you on this fine Mother's Day.
Yes, it is, and happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there.
Happy Mother's Day, people.
Ah,
We usually get cards, too, don't we?
what, play cards or what?
Mother's Day cards.
I've been called a mother a time or two.
Yes, I have too. More than once. But yeah, it's everybody love your mom while you got her. It's
yeah, amen to that.
Good day to appreciate what you got. That's right.
Yep. Well, anyway, what a wild and woolly week it's been, and it's the weather, nice weather has kind of returned. We got beautiful sunny day, cool, not hot, not warm either, not buggy. It was just perfect day today. And now we got a frost warning tonight.
Well, we actually turned on the AC earlier. It's pretty warm today, but
very nice.
Yeah, it's weird. we're at that stage. You need heat at night and AC during the day, but if I was a little bit tougher, I could probably work my way through it. Being a cheapskate that I am. But I'll try to keep everybody else in the house comfortable because I have to think of others. Yeah. I'd put on a jacket. I'm fine. Pampered.
Let's see something real quick. Oh, I don't know what I did with it now. Oh, there it is. Hang on. Let me do one thing. Let me just hit this button here.
Looks like Bigfoot is a lumberjack in this thumbnail here. He's really been knocking on that tree there.
Oh, he certainly has. Let me just, okay. I'm getting everything back to status quo here. Just a last minute little, oh, there it is. So, I don't know if you saw my latest meme on Facebook, Chris. Because I know you're not on Facebook.
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't sign in very often. No.
So, in my traditional humorous sense, we have. Hang on, I have to put this one up here. Is this one right here? Well, really?
Chicago's back. They're on a mission from God. Yes, that's right. The new Pope is from Chicago.
Sure
yes,
is.
That's right.
In fact, I've been showing snippets of him at a Chicago White Sox game.
Yeah. Very cool.
Which upset the Cubs very, very.
Well, I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled that there is a Pope from the United States of America. It's about time. Which, I'm not Catholic, but I'm happy for you if you are. I really am.
Yeah. So I thought that it's just so funny. It's, I remember when they, John Ratzinger, who was Pope Benedict, there was something my brother had sent me because, my brother was alive at the time, and I automatically made a meme out of it and posted it on Facebook. But Ratzinger, of course, was from Germany. So, he had the homily, and he's sitting there with, instead of the bread and the wine, he's got a big pretzel and a beer. So, that. So there's always little papal humor that I throw out there when it happens, and all in good fun.
Well, I was introduced to this conclave back when Pope John Paul II was elected Pope. And I remember, of course, we didn't have that many TV stations, so the TV was live coverage. Everybody watching the little Sistine Chapel smokestack, and they'd come out black smoke, and they said, "Oh," I'm like, "Oh, what's the deal?" Oh,
Well,
yeah, they don't have a pope. Okay.
Well, Grant, I will say this. You may not have been old enough to remember, maybe you have been, but a lot of people weren't happy with when John Paul II was selected. And look, he turned out to be a superstar. So you never know.
Yeah, I just thought it was neat. I didn't know anything about him.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was neat. The world was, on edge, waiting on the edge of their seat to find out who the next pope was going to be.
Right. And just so you know, I actually just got a message from Joe, and thank you for your message, Joe. And he says, "Love the show, brother."
Well,
that's
very
thoughtful.
very
nice.
Thank
I
you,
just
sir.
got a thank you. He texted me on Facebook. So,
That's better than sending you a message saying, "You guys suck."
That'll happen next.
We can take it. We can take it. Oh.
That'll happen next. Now I will get a bunch of hate texts. But anyway, let's get this out of there. Boom.
Wow. A lot of people in the chat tonight. Hey, guys.
Chat is hopping. Well, a lot of people missed our show on Friday.
Yeah.
So we'll do a quick 5-minute review when we get rolling here. So anyway, let's do our roll call.
Yeah.
And we will get trucking. So first in tonight, Pat Collins. Hello, Pat, if you're still out there. Roy Longley. Hello,
Roy.
representing. He's like, heck yeah, knocking on Bigfoot's door.
The lurker in chief there, Roy.
Yeah. I'm just knocking on Bigfoot's door. Little Guns N' Roses there. Karen Fisher, hello, how are you? Sharon, what's going on?
Sharon?
Walter Kroll, hello. Good
Walter.
to see you. Grant Rasha, of course.
Grant.
YouTube user, which is probably Danny Weeks. Danny, good to see you. The B-Tron, hello, B-Tron. Good to see you back again, brother. Pete H, what's happening?
Hey, Pete.
I think we said Sandra Piper, but if not Sandra Piper, hello again if we haven't said hello yet. Boris Kahn, hello, Boris. Good to
Boris.
see you. John, Sasquatch Wizard, Adirondacks, rock on, brother.
John, good to see you.
Cowboy One, what's going on, Cowboy One? Good to see you in chat again. Who else? We got Finding the Trackway. Bill, hello.
Trackway, welcome. I'm lost. Dang it.
Ristel, what's going on? Ristel
Ristel.
in the house. Did we say hi to Sandra Piper? I'm just kidding. I know we did. The Susie Monster. What's going on, Susie? Good to see you. Jen, what's happening? Our bouncer. Jen. Good to see you, Jen, and probably your office assistant, Baron, nearby. Eyes in the Woods. Good to see you, Eyes.
Welcome.
Been a bit, but good to see you back. Who else?
Outback Orchard.
Outback Orchard. Good to see you, my friend. I hope to see you in Whitehall. So, who else we got? Ron Meldrum. Hello, Ron. Good to see you. Gary Johnson Sr. Hello, Gary.
Welcome.
Mrs. Trackway. Deb, what's happening? Looking forward to seeing y'all in Ohio. The Sandwich Savant is in the house.
That's a cool name.
You know, peanut butter and jelly or fluffernutter? That's what I'd like to know. Mick is in the house bringing his meatloaf to the game. There we are. And who else we got going with us tonight? Chuck Truther. Chuck, what's going on, my good friend Chuck? How are you?
I'm close to the bottom, so I think I have.
Playing for real in the house.
Playing for real. Welcome.
New name. And hello, everyone. Hello, Playing for Real. Good to see you in chat. Welcome. Make yourself at home. Kick your feet up. All I ask is if you're the last one out, turn the lights off. Tennessee Cherokee. What's happening? Tennessee. Grasshopper. Hello.
Grasshopper.
We got a full house tonight. I'll tell you what. So
I think we've got everybody. I'm not sure. I got lost at least 3 times going down the the line there.
Well, if we missed anybody, our sincerest apologies.
Yeah. Don't think we don't love you, because we do.
We do. We love everybody that's in our chat. Yeah, if Nick asked if tonight's show clothing is optional. If you want to get undressed, knock your socks off.
Just be comfortable. That's all.
That's it. Be comfortable. And if you're sitting in leather, make sure you put a towel down because you don't stick. So
leather is not comfortable. It pinches me. I don't like leather.
Well, this is actually kind of a leather. This is a leather chair. It's got a leather backing and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And it does get a little warm.
Yeah.
But I love this chair. It's so comfortable. It's good for the good back support. Sandwich Avant asked if Hocking Hills is in August. That is correct. If you want me to, I will pop up. I will let you all know. Let's see. We will.
Hocking Hills just keeps getting bigger and better.
Yes, Hocking Hills Bigfoot Festival, August 7th to August 10th in MacArthur, Ohio. So.
August what now?
August 7th through
7th
the 10th.
Through the 10th. Okay.
Of August, correct. So. All right, so let's get on to today's show. So on Friday, we dove into that fascinating chimpanzee study. And for those that don't know what it is, we will catch up with it in a minute. But that chimpanzee study, the one that had us all thinking about behavior and about behavior patterns and how they may relate to Bigfoot encounters. I've got to say, the discussion we had in chat really got my wheels turning. Since then, I've been digging deeper into the data, and something clicked. You see, over the past few days, I've been working on a scientific paper that takes the insights from that chimp study and draws some intriguing parallels to Bigfoot behavior. It's not just speculation. I'm talking about specific behavioral patterns that could significantly influence how we approach future Bigfoot research. Very important stuff. What makes this really exciting is that we're not just talking about random anecdotes or isolated sightings. We're starting to see a pattern, one grounded in primate behavior studies that could shed new light on what we've been seeing in the field and what we've been saying for years. If we apply these insights correctly, it could revolutionize how we interpret movement patterns, vocalizations, and even those unexplained behaviors that have stumped researchers for years. Tonight, we're going to walk you through the core ideas from this paper. I'll break down how the chimp study connects to the Bigfoot encounters and why this connection could change the way we conduct our investigations moving forward. And that's what we're doing tonight.
Sounds great. But I'm still, man, that Friday show it blew me away. When the study found these chimpanzees were rhythmically knocking.
Right. Oh, wow. Quick announcement too. This Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, Really Bad Bigfoot Movie Night returns this Wednesday. We're not going to say what the film is. And boy, it's a stinker. It's a stinker.
Oh boy, it can't be as bad as the first one. No, it cannot.
I don't know.
Anything that it's all downhill from that first one.
It's like when you get a fresh steaming pile of poop, right? Can you? Does one smell worse than the other steaming pile of poop?
Oh man,
you don't know.
We did that. The Curse of Bigfoot. That's got to be the worst Bigfoot movie ever made in history. It's terrible. Yeah. I don't know. There was one with it. The girl, Bigfoot was following the girl through the wilderness or something, and letters from the big man. I think that was pretty bad, but we can't show that one because it's copyrighted, But that was pretty bad one.
No, Cowboy 1 asks, how are you doing a movie night? I thought YouTube blocks all those people for that. You got to find movies that are in the public domain.
Got to do it legally, yeah.
Yep. And that's how we do it. Now, there is some music issues sometimes. Strangely, there was supposed to be music issues on the last movie we did. We removed the music, and it didn't seem to have any effect on the movie whatsoever. So I don't know.
That's what some of these tricksters are doing. They'll take a movie that is free in the public domain, and then they'll add some little sort of background music that they created, and then they'll copyright the whole thing. Sneaky.
Well, right now we have one uploaded that somebody claimed copyright on. Now, it doesn't strike the channel when we do that, so that's not an issue. So I've disputed that copyright because it clearly is in the public domain. And what happened is some of these distribution companies that say, hey, this movie's in the public domain. Let's put it on a DVD and sell it for $3 or $1 at the dollar bin store. Yeah. And that's exactly what happens. So their bots see the movie uploaded and they start claiming copyright on it when they really don't have the copyright. So, basically you file a dispute, and usually within a week it releases back. So we should be clear and good to go with that particular movie for next month. But we have one music issue, and for some reason the music on the YouTube scrubber there that'll pull that music off was having a little issue tonight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the movie in myself, and I'm going to remove the music from it myself, and we'll have a nice replacement piece for
some custom music on there.
Because the entire musical piece has no, at the very beginning of the movie has no conversation or anything going on. It's just scenic, and they're rolling the credits. So we will put a rather entertaining piece of music in there. All my sense of humor.
Put some music in there, and then we'll copyright the movie. You can't show that. It's got Steve's music. Oh, these tricksters, though, man.
They are.
There's something.
Yep. So there are some workarounds on some of that stuff. And, hey, we're good to go. Anyway, let's get on to tonight's topic. So we talked about, on Friday night, for those who weren't here, we talked about this chimpanzee study that had come out on Friday, as a matter of fact. That's how quick it came out Friday morning, and by Friday night, we were doing an episode on it. So, which, is amazing in of itself. And what they had found was that the chimpanzees actually are rhythmically banging on tree stumps for communication, for basically location as well, geolocating themselves, and for social structure and dominance. So, and what they found is that they have rhythm. Yep. That when they do it at a specific rhythm, at a specific tone, and that the Eastern chimps versus the Western chimps had variations, meaning there were cultural differences between the two groups. One particular group does it one way, another particular species does it yet another way. So yeah, it's really, really cool stuff. So that's it in a nutshell. And the report, the actual scientific report they did was over 20 pages long. It had, go back and watch Friday night's show if you're interested. We have some graphics up there. The other thing too is on Saturday I blogged about that. So for those who want to see the actual report, it's uploaded to my blog, and it has, my article written on it with some captures of the acoustics to it, and everything all put together.
And I think they mainly talked about two groups, Eastern chimps and Western chimps. I don't think they did a study on the Southern chimps. They would have probably been drumming a country beat.
Very true.
Yes.
Yeah, dueling bananas. There's a question. Do bananas even grow in Africa?
I don't know. I've never been.
I've never been to Africa too.
Watched a lot of documentaries about different countries in Africa, but I've never seen bananas. Now that you mention it,
Yeah, I think they're South American or an island.
I don't know. Does anybody in chat know? Do they grow bananas on the continent of Africa? I have no idea.
That's nuts. Well, wait a minute. That's another food now.
Well,
but
chimpanzees seem to like them though, and oranges. They love oranges.
So, if you would allow me, Chris, let me read the abstract to the scientific paper. And I have my scientific paper right here in front of me today that I've written. This eventually will get blogged and uploaded to my blog as well. So we have different ways of getting different media out to people. The blog is great for putting these PDF releases out.
Phil C says East versus West tree knock battles.
As 20 years ago, plus 25 years ago, I used to watch Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
Oh yeah.
And there was an episode with Boost Mobile. The Boost Mobile episode, that's when they had the chirp and everything, and and Shake was basically trying to do a Boost commercial the whole show.
Yeah.
And Frylock was getting mad at him, and he was getting in an argument with their neighbor, as usual, and he goes, "Yeah, well, you can chirp this on the east side, you can chirp this on the west side, you can chirp this on the south side," and then all of a sudden Frylock says, "Yeah, I'm going outside."
I remember.
He leaves.
I remember that.
Oh God, that was
I still watch Aqua Teen Hunger Force reruns. I love that show. It's hilarious. Master Shake. He was just too mean. Too mean. That's right, Robert. I'll be here all week. Don't forget to tip your servers and try the veal. Oh, well, Grasshopper said the bananas are man-made. It can grow anywhere with a cutting.
Okay, there we go.
Cool.
Okay, so the abstract of the paper says recent primatological research has revealed that chimpanzees exhibit rhythmic and structured drumming behavior with regional variation, suggesting that percussive communication may be a deep-rooted primate trait. Bigfoot researchers have long claimed that Sasquatch utilized tree knocks and rock clacking as a form of non-vocal communication. The newly validated findings in Current Biology, Uletary et al., 2025, provide comparative support for the hypotheses that Bigfoot's percussive behaviors may also represent a primitive and intelligent communicative system. This paper explores the parallels and proposes a theoretical framework for Bigfoot acoustic behavior and calls for structured field study aligned with primate communication science. So the whole idea is to take the science they used for these chimpanzees and let's apply it to Bigfoot research. For those who are audio fanatics, this would be a perfect way of looking at the study and how they have done it to go out there and just, okay. And the important thing is, and as few as they are, is the knocking. It doesn't happen at a certain frequency. Right. That would tell a lot. Does it happen at a certain frequency? Does it happen with a certain rhythm if there's more than one? Yeah. You have to look at the spacing between them when you catch a series of knocks. If you do, a lot of times we get that one single knock. You get, and then you wait a few minutes and you hear it again. Are they the same? Are they the same resonance? Same thing with rock clacking. If you get rock clacking, now rocks are much more difficult to kind of get the same intonation because, the surface hitting a surface, unlike a log or a stick or a branch hitting a tree. If you're just hitting into the same area at the same two areas, it's a lot easier to see that may happen. So I don't know. But that's the thing of this is we got to develop ways of taking those sounds and analyzing them from a spectrographic analysis.
Right.
So,
And they even measured when we did the show Friday. You had the graph up there that shows the frequencies of the different knocks and the rhythm of the knocks equally spaced. It's pretty neat.
Now, the introduction says the use of sound as a medium for non-vocal communication is widespread in the animal kingdom. Among primates, drumming and other rhythmic behaviors have emerged as key components of social interaction. Chimpanzees, for example, drum on tree buttresses using their hands and feet to produce percussive sounds that can travel long distances. Recent research has now confirmed these behaviors are not random, but follow specific rhythmic patterns with potential communicative intent. Bigfoot, also known as Sasquatch, is purported to exhibit similar behaviors. Eyewitness reports and field observations frequently describe deliberate tree knocking or rock clacking attributed to these elusive hominids. Despite decades of anecdotal claims by researchers, the absence of peer-reviewed validation has hindered the academic acceptance of such behaviors. However, new comparative primate research may offer a framework to reevaluate Sasquatch acoustic phenomenon through a scientific lens. So again, Grass says rock on a tree makes more sense. Very well could be.
Yeah.
We talk about, a lot of people think they're mouth popping, but I don't know. Maybe they are when you get the single, but when you get the boom, 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 or the double knocks or the triple knocks, or there's been reports of people hearing one, bashing on a tree 5-6 times.
Right.
That may be an SOS. I don't know.
Mickey, welcome.
So again, let's do a review of the chimpanzee drumming research. They documented 371 drumming bouts from 11 chimpanzee communities across 2 subspecies, Pan-troglodytes reverus and Pan-troglodytes schweinfurthi, which is the western and the eastern, respectively. Their findings included rhythmic structure. Chimpanzees used non-random timing and synchrony in drumming, producing evenly spaced beats or alternating rhythmic patterns. Subspecies variations. Western chimpanzees drum with more asynchrony, while eastern chimpanzees showed a preference for alternating short and long intervals. Functional context. Drumming occurred primarily during travel, rest, and social display contexts and was often integrated into pantoot vocalization. So they were also vocalizing at the same time they were banging away on the trees.
Wow. We're getting close to
music.
Yeah. That's that's interesting.
If I start banging on my desk, I'm going to start knocking stuff. I watch the camera go right up.
Oh, man.
Communicative function. The behavior likely facilitates long-range communication, identification, and group coordination, paralleling human rhythmic expression. Wow. The study concluded that drumming in chimpanzees may represent proto-musical behavior with evolutionary roots in hominid ancestry. Very interesting.
Yeah.
So let's think about this one more time. They believe it's part of the hominid evolutionary process, meaning, do all primates have this?
Well, certainly man did. And now that we've been theorizing for a long time that Sasquatch, Bigfoot, does. And now they're showing us that chimpanzees do. So it's pretty interesting. It seemed like a good argument that this is a primate thing,
So let me... Cowboy One says, I don't think Bigfoot does tree knocking and rock clacking. I think it's from TV shows. Wrong! We were talking about tree knocking long before any of the TV shows. They were talking about that in the mid 90s. All right. And if you look at any pre-90 TV show, they never discussed tree knocking. Tree knocking began with Finding Bigfoot as being on TV. Perhaps maybe Monster Quest a little bit earlier on talked about tree knocking. I know I was tree knocking on my episode, but no, it wasn't discovered after the TV shows. It was talked to. Now it's how people do Bigfoot research. Chicken treat, boom, boom, boom. They don't know what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to have your recorder set. You have to have some sort of recording going on. But no, it was not because of TV shows. We were talking about this long before any of the TV shows. In fact, I think the only really major Bigfoot documentary that was in the 90s was A&E's Ancient Mysteries, hosted by Leonard Nimoy, which did an episode on Bigfoot. And they didn't talk about tree knocking in that particular episode.
Yeah.
In fact, what they did was they had the late Henry Franzoni out there banging on drums to try to get them to come in. Which, when we look at this report, there may have been something to that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is the stuff we've been saying for years.
Well, it's
hold on a second. No, Steve, Autumn Williams discussed it before Finding Bigfoot. Yeah, that was in 2003. Again, we were talking about this in the 90s, all right? Yeah. We knew Bigfoot was tree knocking in the 90s. All this stuff in Mysterious Encounters, and then Monster Quest. Mysterious Encounters, I believe, was 2003. Monster Quest was on just after that or just prior to that. I know my Monster Quest episode was in 2008, and then Finding Bigfoot appeared in 2011. Yeah. So this was discussed. They were talking a lot about it when I first got involved in research. They were discussing it in 1998, before any of this. So,
Steve, I've got some about 3 questions starred here. You want to get to those before we get too far ahead?
All right, hang on one second. Let me make a comment, Grass. Autumn Williams is not an idiot. All right, I've had back 15 years ago, I had a lot of conversations with her. She had a really good grasp of understanding the creature a bit. She had a better grasp of understanding bullshit artists. Let me just put it to you that way. The downfall is that book Enoch, which even afterwards she started beginning having doubts about the validity of this guy, of who she was talking to. She had a big, she couldn't really hone in on who this guy was. Had I had my full palette of resources at the time, and if she was willing to share it, probably could have tracked him down. But I did not at the time. And as far as Autumn going woo, that's not surprising because her mother had an encounter years before, back in the 80s. And her mother was a woo believer, but she's not wooing the fact that she thinks that they're going to jump through a portal necessarily, or they're going to mind meld with you necessarily.
Oh, I hope not.
So,
I don't want Bigfoot in my brain.
Right.
Booga booga.
Exactly. And as far as the tree knocking, there was definitely a tree knock on a nice 50-degree night. One day in I think it was just before COVID, 2019, when Mike and I were out there and we heard this tree knock. Mike and Tactical Bigfoot Research.
Yeah. Well, I had heard tree knocks before I ever knew anything about it, that it could be related. Right. And I never thought anything about it. But what was that? I don't know.
Yeah,
probably nothing.
Hold on. In theaters, what are you talking about, Cowboy? What movies? Name them. What documentaries? Name them. Because I tell you what, I have a full collection. Not buying it. Not buying your story. Not buying your story. Because you know what? I've never seen those movies.
Well, Grant Rasha says, do Bigfoots prefer a specific tree and branch more specific than hardwoods? Don't know.
In the late 70s at theaters, there were documentaries. What documentaries were ever shown in theaters? There was Mysterious Monsters with Peter Graves. There was In Search Of. None of them had wood knocking in them.
Yeah.
In fact, the Sierra Sounds caught wood knocking on their audio back in the early 70s. But that was nothing ever played in Search Of. The one they played mainly was the Samurai Chatter.
Yeah.
No, I understand.
Yeah, the Sierra Sounds had some wood knocking in it, but nobody ever put that together, I guess. It's a form of communication, probably, you know, they were just out there walking around. He thought they were
the amount of real Bigfoot documentaries. I mean, the only documentary was the docudrama, The Legend of Boggy Creek. You know, and then you had a bunch of cult films, but none of them had tree knocking in them either. I'm telling you, tree knocking became prevalent with the show Finding Bigfoot. That's when everybody started running out. I'm telling you, as a historian of this, being involved in this for the last 27 years, I'm very attentive to the trends and what goes on. And people really didn't start talking about tree knocks and hearing tree knocks until 2011 when Finding Bigfoot started to air. And there's data to prove that, because the BFRO database never had anything about tree knocking in it necessarily, unless it was in conjunction with a sighting or other activity. Now you're getting these reports on since then. Well, I heard tree knocks, and that's it. Well, that's not good enough for me. Unless it's in an area that has been proven to have a lot of, it has to be some provenance to an area, to acknowledge, because there are winds that knock trees together. There are, but the one thing we can say is this: employing the strategies I'm going to talk to you about tonight.
Sandwich Savant says, I'm about 50-50 on knocks. We would really need to see one doing it to know.
But and I'm going to drop an anecdote here because I don't have the report in front of me, but there have been reports of people seeing them striking trees with a log or a large branch. Not too often.
I've heard these knocks, but I've never witnessed them being made.
Right.
It's interesting. There's something there that ties them together, and I think this new paper on the chimpanzees is bringing it home.
Right? Yeah. You cannot argue with the fact that chimpanzees have this percussive thing going on. So this is exactly what we've been saying for years. So let's, I love how we become our worst enemies. That instead of turning around and saying, let's employ some strategy to see if this is real or not, which now we have the tools to do that. Now we have an understanding of how chimpanzees do that. Thus, we can apply this information now to our Sasquatch research. That's the point. Now we will figure out whether or not they do or do not do this. Or either it's something, because if somebody gets something that's rhythmic and, or frequency aligned, versus something else, then we can say, well, that's a legitimate wood knock. That's not. Right? That's a random noise a tree's making. Maybe it's hitting another tree. Maybe there's another explanation for such. Because, you got to run your tree knocks through spectrograms too, because other things can be responsible for it. And the way to start the testing is very simple. Get your recorder up, start tree knocking on something, and record those sounds, and then apply them to a spectrogram. So there's got to be some, when you're conducting science, you have to do your own experiments first. You have to understand the controls. You have to understand the parameters.
And And I thought it was odd.
There we go. Thank you, Chuck. That's where I heard it. That's right. Not walking a tree, but knocking a tree.
Yeah.
So,
You guys are killing me in the chat.
Chris, you got some starred questions out there.
Yeah. First one, Grant put up there. Do Bigfoots prefer specific tree and branch more specific than hardwoods?
Don't know.
From the sound of it, it sounds like they do hit hardwoods, because if they were hitting softwoods like pine or something like that, it wouldn't be as loud of a knock, That's just a theory, okay? And Mick says, Steve, did they mention any link to the Schumann resonance? It's the most common known frequency in the universe, 7.83 hertz.
Good question. Great question. I don't know those statistics off the top of my head just yet.
Well, the frequencies were on Friday's show, but I can't remember any.
Let me see if I can pull up. See, that's the beauty of using
7.83 hertz.
Hold on. Let's see. That's a good question. All right. Oh no, they were a lot louder. Let me see if I can.
Well, the 7.3 hertz would be the timing between the peaks of the.
Right. Okay, well, obviously, it looks like I can't see if that's hertz.
I'm afraid to open it
up. But no, I'm looking at it, and it looks like no, it's not that low. That's a sub. It sounds like 7 hertz. Is that what the question was? 70. That's infrasonic. So no, obviously these are sounds that are heard.
Oh,
so it's not a resonance. So okay.
Let me find that question. I've got to take it off the thing. There it is. Okay.
So no, it was definitely a higher.
Grasshopper says, I've never found a random branch that I could hit against a tree and make the same sound that people talk about. Not in a rainforest here.
Right. So somebody in comment, yeah, but Cowboy One. Well, here, let me get to the grasses first. So I'm sorry. Can you put that question up there again, Chris?
Yeah. Hang on.
All right. Thank you. There we go. Yeah, could it be a rock? Grant, somebody in chat said that maybe they're hitting a rock, using a rock with the tree. Maybe they are doing a mouth pop, but maybe instead of tree knocking, they mouth pop. I mean, if you look around, yeah, I can't answer that. I've found plenty of random branches that I hit against a tree and make some sound, some sort of sound. Of course, I live in upstate New York, where there's plenty of oak and there's plenty of maple. And if you look around quick enough in certain areas, you can find broken tree branches. So, right. And then again, they may be a little more adept at finding broken tree branches that we are in the forest as well.
Well, that's the thing in Kentucky. We have a lot of hardwoods in our forest, but most of the time when you find a branch laying on the ground, it's rotten. You hit it up against the tree and it just explodes. Just disintegrates. So,
and you're right, Boris. There's a current trend forming that it isn't wood knock, but pop with mouth. That's true, and it could be. There is also some talking about beating the chest, but it's very interesting because it's very resonant. Like when I heard that legit tree knock, it was like, it just,
yeah.
And there should be no reason in the forest for that noise when there's nobody.
Yeah, I think they do more than just bang on trees too. Yeah, because we've heard foot, but it sounds like a foot stomp, something hitting the ground so hard. And I remember there was a bunch of us were coyote hunting about 2 a.m. in the morning, and after we left, after we heard that, and we got back to my house, and we were all standing around the front yard trying to stomp on the ground to make the same sound, and we couldn't do it. We couldn't do it. It was 4 times, 5 times louder than anything we could do. So then I got to thinking, well, could it have been a chest thump?
Now, Texas Jack and Woodbook are saying, I think you may be right, as often you hear it, the big thicket, you'd think there'd be some smashed tree bark. Not true. I've wailed on trees before and never have knocked a piece of bark off a tree. I've broken the stick before. I've knocked the bark off the branch, but the living tree has some bounce to it. So that's or there might be an indentation, but then again, you'd have to find the particular tree it's knocking on, and in the forest, that's like the needle in a haystack. Do we have any other questions, Chris?
No, Grant Rasha said most Bigfoots are related to the Roosevelts. They speak softly and carry a big stick.
They don't speak softly either, that's for sure.
Man.
So very interesting. So let's take a look at why did we get ahead in these slides? I don't understand why.
I don't know. I hope I didn't do something.
Yeah, all of a sudden we're on like the next to last slide because we were here. So, this is what we think Bigfoot, it's reciprocal communication, environmental awareness, and long distance communication. And that's what we've known so far. And I'm going to shut this phone off because, apparently they want to give me the weather report when I'm in the middle of a flipping podcast.
That's right. We need to know what the weather is at all times.
And somebody has actually sent me a clip of a single knock wood recording, which I'll take a listen to after show. I have no way of getting this.
Said not knocked off, but like smashed green bark.
Gotcha.
Smashed, yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, but then again, you got to find the tree that it's been knocking on. And that may be difficult to do. You hear a tree knock in the distance, usually it's, off 100 yards, even 50 yards. It's a challenge because how many trees in the forest are between you and that knock? Could be anywhere.
That's just Texas Jack got me to thinking, like when you're deer hunting in the fall or whenever you go, and you've got typically most guys that do this, they'll take a pair of antlers with them, and they'll rack them things together, and then they'll clack them around. I wonder if that would bring in a Bigfoot creature. I mean, it works for bucks.
You get a bunch of bucks, maybe even a few does. Okay,
maybe.
That's so. I mean, these are just some of the things we hypothesize, and there's no right or wrong answer. I mean, even Lazy Cowboy, or Cowboy One. I'm sorry, we got Lazy Cowboy and we have Cowboy One. Cowboy One, if you don't believe they tree knock, and that's your prerogative. As somebody who has heard these tree knocks in the past. Hang on.
Yeah, Paramedic says when I heard one by a lake, I knew instantly it was a sycamore tree.
Right.
Cut a lot of wood in my time, familiar with the sounds of different
Sure.
lakes. Yeah.
Absolutely makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
But, this has been, I don't know about any of those documentaries. Obviously, I've never seen a documentary with wood knocking on it prior to maybe Monster Quest or maybe Mysterious Encounters. And you would have to also understand that a lot of researchers don't watch those programs, so necessarily or ingrain them into their mind. I don't know. I heard online discussions about tree knocking, and I researched it further. And I go, that's interesting, and didn't really employ it until 2008. So I didn't start tree knocking until 2008, really, or 2007.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Texas Jack says that malpop theory aside, the ones I hear sound much like wood. Exactly.
Right.
When we were out at Lincoln Mountain, and Mike and I heard that single knock, which we caught on the podcast.
Right.
That sounded like, literally, that sounded like a ball being hit out of the ballpark when you hear that bat hit that ball. Just
Loud
perfect
crack. Yeah.
And over it goes. Conversely, get in your chair. Conversely, I've also heard trees expanding and contracting. That sounds just like tree knocks as well, with that resonance. So you have to, understand weather can be a variable in these noises as well. That's why it was very important that I knew the temperature at the time of the tree knock on Lincoln Mountain was 48 degrees. And thank God for watches, smart watches now, which have the weather, have the temperature right on them.
Yeah.
That, I can sit there, okay, I know it's not freezing or sub-freezing, so nothing inside that tree is expanding or contracting.
Right. Yeah.
So that's very important to know.
Below freezing when you're in the woods, if you hear a pop, it could be bark splitting. Very possible.
Now, for the second half of the Tonight Show, we're going to be talking about some theoretical framework, and we're going to be talking about some methodologies that we can employ. At least, here's the big thing. Whether it's mouth popping or tree knocking or, the fine art, martial art of bullshido out there, this is the way we find this out. If it's real, if it's not, if it's mouth popping, rock clacking, or something, tree knocking or something completely we never thought of, this is the way and the methodology to go about and try to see if it correlates with this study that came out on Friday. I think it's very important because if I'm here over in New York and I catch a tree knock or a couple of tree knocks or a series on my recorder and look at that frequency on a spectrogram, and Texas Jack is down in Texas and captures a sound recording of a wood knock right on his recorder and sends it to me or puts it on his own spectrogram, and it matches the same frequency as mine, that's okay. We have something here. Does it repeat itself? Well, now we get a third one, say from Minnesota, and that matches. So now that'll kind of tell us whether or not these are just arbitrary sounds of the forest, or there may be something to it, and that's why it becomes important.
Well, on the chimpanzee study, they said that they could identify different chimps from they would have a different rhythm or a different sound. So I wonder if that would cross over into the Bigfoot research.
And regardless, you see, Cowboy One doesn't understand that this will also tell us if this is all bullshido, right? Yeah. If we get all these tree knocks and they're all over the place, there's no rhythm, there's no thing. Guess what? We might be listening to some natural forest sounds that we just never thought of or never been studied.
Right.
The really interesting thing would be to put a tree out, and film a tree and just with audio and hear if it pops by itself. Because one thing you may never think, we never think of, trees grow. Right, here's another concern. Trees grow. So when you hear that single pop, it may be the tree is reaching a certain growth rate, no matter what the temperature is, and it goes.
All right.
We don't know. So that's just one idea. So and like I said, we don't want to go in this with a confirmation bias. I do believe they are, but the research is the research and the science is the science. This is going to tell us whether or not that hypothesis holds up. That's the whole important. That's what research is. So let's all get on board with it. Let's do this. Let's figure this out.
Grant says, trees grow. I don't. You can't teach common sense and height.
That's true. Yeah, and then you got Mick, who's 6 foot whatever, 7 foot whatever.
I had a guy ask me at work one time, back when I used to work over at the factory. He said, Chris, he said, do trees grow from the top or grow from the bottom? I said, well, I imagine they grow from the top, right?
They grow everywhere.
Do they grow at the bottom?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Said, no, they don't.
They certainly do.
No.
They do.
No.
Their roots do. Absolutely. And that's the bottom of the tree.
Larger diameter, yes. But
hold on. You're forgetting the root network, the portion of the tree you do not see. They do grow longer.
What makes it taller?
Okay, what makes it taller? Yeah, they grow at the tips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the reason you know this is because if you ever had a fence row,
right,
and you see where the fence was nailed to the tree, you know, if it had been growing from the bottom up, well, that fence would have been 30 feet in the air. You know?
Right. Yeah, the diameter grows, but think about it, as the diameter grows all the way up the tree too.
Yeah.
And what they do is, when I say they grow at the tips, they grow at the top of the trees and lengthwise, and the bottom at the roots.
Yes.
That's what I was saying, that they grow at the bottom.
Yeah.
The trunks are not really the bottom of the tree. The trunks are the part that anchor into the ground, but they're not I mean, if you look at a tree, if you pull the tree out of the ground, it has a pear shape almost, because it comes down and there's the trunk, and then it comes down to the root system, and then the roots turn into these little fingers and ganglies, and
when your roots get on top of the ground, it's hard to mow around them.
The rest of your size doesn't matter. So, all right, Chris, it's 9:59. Time to take our 1 hour break, and when we come back,
1 hour break. All right.
Yeah, this is how quick is that gone, right?
Oh, I thought we were going to take a break for an hour.
No. We're at top of the hour break.
We're not taking a time to.
We'll be back at midnight. No. We're gonna tip a few and then come back and do the rest of the show. Now,
top of the hour.
When we come back, we're going to be talking about theoretical framework for Sasquatch acoustic communication, and then methodological considerations for future research. And poor Chris didn't think we were going to get a full 2 hour show out of this, but there's a lot to cover, which, you know, when we start talking about it, the meat of the matter and the questions that come out, you know, so. Okay, folks, we'll be back right after the break. Everybody, grab a sandwich, grab some popcorn. Well, grab popcorn for Wednesday. Grab yourself your favorite beverage. Hit the can, and we'll see you all on the flip side of the break. That was not it.
Late night, cameras rolling, just the facts, that's all we need. 2 men on a mission, following the evidence, yeah. No more tall tales, no more make-believe. Scientific method, that's what makes us believe. Truth hunters in the night, truth hunters. Truth hunters in the night, yeah. Won't stop until we find truth hunters in the night, truth hunters till we die. instrument calibrated, every footprint analyzed. No room for speculation, just the data, just the signs. No more fairy tales, no more wasted time. Real investigation, that's our paradigm. Truth hunters in the night. Truth hunters in the night. Won't stop until we find. Truth hunters in the night. Truth hunters till we die. We're not here for fiction, not here for fantasy. Just pure dedication to what our eyes can see. Truth hunters in the night. Truth hunters in the night. Won't stop until we find. Truth hunters in the night. Truth hunters till we die. Truth hunters in the night. Truth hunters.
Is Bigfoot real, or just one of the greatest mysteries of our time? Step into the world of Steve Kulls, the Squatch Detective. With over 400 pages of science-backed theory, Bigfoot, a scientific examination, is the definitive exploration of the Sasquatch phenomenon. Dig deeper with the Squatch Detective's Guide to Bigfoot Investigations, a must-read for serious researchers. Gain critical insight with the psychology of Bigfoot, the guide to understanding Bigfoot witnesses and their claims. And then what would Sasquatch do? Volume 2, uncover what Bigfoot may have in common with its ancient primate ancestors. Explore the evidence. Challenge the claims. All books available now on Amazon.
And we are back.
Made it. And
Made it.
I started some comments while we were out, Steve. The last one there from Mick, I don't know if you want to put this up or not, but
Oh, fire it up there.
it says someone should see if they can get Carmine to show a completely shaved Sasquatch. He'll hoax it for a case of Diet Peach Snapple.
Get me a Snapple.
And let's see. Sasquatch Wizards Adirondack says, Steve, I'm on board, but to clarify, you want us to collect audio of knocking sounds, identify each knock source, and analyze the sound on our spectrograms to document the visual sound signatures. Basically what you're saying, correct?
Yeah.
That's what they did.
I would try in a few trees, record it, spectrogram. Now you have, number one, if you're hitting a maple, say 4 or 5 times different, and you start hitting an oak, then you can compare the two spectrograms. So for the trees in your specific research area, if you hear a tree knock and you're able, if there's a difference in frequency of those hits, you may be able to determine what type of tree was used.
Wouldn't that be cool?
So that's
Not
number
only
one.
do-
And then you would have a good database of having, you would have a good database of, you know, what a tree knock actually sounds like. So if you hear this noise out in the distance and, you know, it's something different, then you know, well, that's not a tree knock. Could it be a mouth pop? Could it be something else?
If you record that, then run that by your other data, you could say, oh, yeah, this was a tree knock on a oak, white oak tree, or red oak, or this was a maple tree.
Right. So, I mean, this is the beautiful thing about science is now we're exploring. and we start working on these things together as a unit. And John, give me a call tomorrow. There's a bunch of other things I'd love to discuss. You know, we're all New York researchers. And
Poncho says, so, what's up, y'all squatchy fools? Hey, Poncho, good to see you, man.
Yes, and thank you for the comments on the music, Poncho. We appreciate that.
Let's see. What was it? Yeah. Best song of the day, Squatch Rock.
Yeah.
Thank you, Poncho. And let's see. Grant Rasha says, tonight's sponsors for Squatch TV are trees. Got wood? Oh, yes. Perfect. I don't know, Grant. I don't. Maybe I should not put that up. I don't know.
Don't.
We don't want to see that. No. We love everybody over in the UK too. Grasshopper says, I still say put a 5-foot gong out in the woods for them to play with. Well, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Little did he know I had a gong on the soundboard.
Well, I mean, you think about it. If it makes noise, wouldn't they like to bang on? Or a drum set. Put a drum set out there in the woods.
Well,
that would be interesting.
Yeah. Well, that's what the late Henry Franzoni did. Was he took drum sets out there and started beating on them. But
and Mike says, "I'm all about the break, especially after homemade chili for supper."
Boy, these people are playing right into the soundboard tonight.
Oh.
All right.
John says, how do you propose we find the source of these knocking sounds? Would be the first experiment, and I've been trying to do this for some time now with only a couple confirmed results. Now, that would be the trick. How are you going to know that the knocks you're recording are being done by a Bigfoot creature or a Sasquatch?
Well, I think he's looking, how would we find the areas to record for knocking sounds?
Mm.
And, there's a couple of ways. Number one, you could just put them in. Now again, this is science. So we do want to put some recorders out in areas as like the placebo, right? Mm. You just put them in random areas, record the sounds of the forest at night. Yeah. Now, you may get a tree knock, you may not, we don't know. But then you go into areas that are rich in Bigfoot sightings. Like, geez, there seems to be a gaggle of Bigfoot sightings in this 20-mile stretch, and put the recorders out there and start recording and see if you get tree knocks. Right? So that you want to do both. And you want to, again, have and that's what we call control groups. Right? You have control group A, which is placed in areas that are innocuous. We have no idea. Then we put control group B will be recorders placed in areas of where Sasquatch sightings have been recorded. When I say recorded, I mean written down or reported or whatever. So you want to have two different control groups to start off with, right? And then we start spectrogramming the results, and we know that this came from control A and this came from control B. And of course, you will, geolocate each one of those areas. So yeah, it can be done.
So you want us to cause the knocking sounds? Yes, Chris Spencer experimented with this as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think now we have a decent enough bunch of parameters using that the chimpanzee rhythmic report, and again, it's available on my blog. You can download that report from my blog, and that's written by Modern Biology. Read it, take what you want from it. That's why I put it out there, so our people can be informed. Yeah, I know.
Grant is against violence towards trees. Which,
and
violence
again,
is always the last resort.
And again, maybe tomorrow morning or the morning after, I'll be adding my own scientific paper to that particular blog post. So keep an eye out for that. And I'll let y'all know on Friday, because Wednesday's movie night, but on Friday I'll let y'all know when and if that's been done. Should be. It's only a quick process.
And Pete says, could the knocking noise possible be from throwing rocks against trees?
Well, that's a great question, but I think that if we did, and maybe we would hear a skitter, but I don't know. I don't. To me, it sounds more like a wood on wood type of thing, or maybe a baseball. And you got to understand, a baseball is made primarily of two items: leather and cork. And cork is a wood product. So when and it's bound by string, which is also a wood product. So, the only thing that's not a wood product on a baseball is the leather cover. So the whole resonance of that is a wood on wood type of resonance. And that's what a lot of the wood knocks sound like a baseball being hit out of the park.
I've heard a rock hit a tree before, and it sounded different than a wood knock.
Sounds more like a thud than it does
right. After it hit, you could hear the rock bouncing through the forest floor.
Right.
So I think that would.
But still a great question.
Yeah.
Still a great question.
Oh, Poncho capsized a canoe this weekend. Dang. Got caught between current canoe and root ball. Thought I was a goner. Well, you got to be careful, Poncho.
Well, we're glad you're here.
Dangerous. Yeah. But, hey, you're living on the edge sometimes.
Up, Aerosmith, living on the edge.
Sometimes these things happen. Let's see. Grant Rasha says, could a grown man hit a tree harder than a young teen Sasquatch? If so, how could the parents of the Sasquatch know if it's them or us?
Don't know.
Well,
that would make a lot of sense because of frequency.
Yeah. With the chimpanzees, they can identify the individual by their drumming, I don't know what you'd call it, style or what. But they can identify the individual by the way that individual drums.
By the rhythm and their frequency.
Yes. So maybe mom and dad Sasquatch can identify Junior by, the way he drums.
I don't know. Well, let's get in some of these, the framework. So what we have here is, a theoretical framework is drawing on the validated chimpanzee data. The following hypotheses are proposed for Sasquatch percussive behavior. Hypothesis 1 is Sasquatch utilized tree knocks and rock clacks as intentional signals for long-range communication. Hypothesis 2 is rhythmic variation in percussive signals may indicate individual identity, group membership, or social status. Hypothesis 3 is regional variation in knock patterns may exist, reflecting cultural transmission akin to chimpanzee subspecies differences. Hypothesis 4, percussive communication in Sasquatch is a retained ancestral trait shared with other great apes. And that includes us. So those are the 4 working hypotheses. They can all be true. Some of them can be true. They may all be false. We don't know. But that's the whole goal of when you have an experiment that you're putting out to your audience, a call to action. Let's solve this. Let's figure this out as a group. So those are the Bigfoot researchers out there. There you go. And that's the nice thing about this show is that we get a lot of people that want to know more about this mystery. They want to understand the science behind it, and they want to also understand that we talk about things here on this show that are not flamboyant. We talk about the raw, hard data, which a lot of people want. They don't want BS. They want science. So that is the 4 working hypotheses.
Mick says, the only problem with knocking on trees to get a response is you don't know what you're saying. You might just end up
so be it.
Off the Sasquatch.
So be it. So let's not do an experiment for science because we don't know what's going to happen. We need to.
It's true. You don't know what you're saying. That's true. That's true. But since you're trying to elicit a response, then it doesn't really matter.
Right. Exactly. Hey, if it pisses it off, beautiful.
That could
now you understand. Maybe you'll get a vocalization, a roar, a scream, and that will solidify that its tree knocking was from a Sasquatch, right? So everything has a purpose. I have never. Well, that's true too, Texas Jack.
It could be, yes. I won't say that because on the podcast, but.
Well, you can say ovulating on the podcast.
That's
perfectly.
You could be advertising that you're looking for a prom date, okay, or a honeymoon. So that's one of the inherent dangers of not knowing
or
communicating. Or
you know what, Mick? Just take one for the team.
Now Jen says.
What's the matter, Chris? We're getting a little saucy.
Jen says, "Thunk on the tree and thunk on the ground."
Yeah. I mean,
now that makes perfect sense. Yes.
Everything is fair game. This is science.
Heard that happen here in Ohio. Yes.
This is science. Everything is fair game.
Yes. Yeah, I've heard the tree knocks in the past, and also the thud on the ground, and that we could not replicate. No matter how hard we tried. So they do both. I think they do both. I did not see the creatures do that, but.
Good evening to Michelle. She just wandered in. Hello, Michelle.
Yeah. And Mike Seton says, 10 a.m. beautiful morning in a known squatchy area of Fulton County, New York. Pulled my car over, completely quiet when I rolled the windows down. After my fourth whoop, I heard a large branch smash against the tree. Very cool.
So, Mike, you're another person. You need to give me a call sometime this week. We got a lot going on, so I want to kind of rally the troops, and you'll understand why.
Cool.
And I'm not necessarily saying anything yet, but we have somebody that's going to probably be part of our gaggle going forward. He's a very well-known person, so I'm going to leave that to everybody to think about that for a little bit. And that it's like, Jay, thank you, brother. We appreciate that so much.
Wow. Jay Fritz gifted 5 memberships. Thank you so much, Jay.
Thank you so much.
Wow. What a guy. Thank you so much.
Okay, so let's roll on here. So let's talk about some methodology. So obviously, to scientifically validate Sasquatch acoustic behavior, the following methodologies are proposed. Employ high fidelity, basically high-end recorders. You don't want to be taping, you don't want to be recording with your phone. You don't want to be you want to use something like an H2N, or an H2, and this is the H2N. The little updated model. I still have my good old H2. I've had this thing for over 10 years. It is a workhorse. Mm-hmm. Both very excellent recorders. 4 mics in each. You can actually change the direction, or if you don't want if you're in camp and you want to set this up where you're looking this way so you can see the screen, you can set the mics to be on this side instead of the back side, so you'll end up getting mostly the loudest noises from the, where it's directing at. So these things are wonderful. They're made by Zoom, who also makes my microphone right here. So great stuff to use.
Your telephone doesn't really pick up audio that well. I notice a lot of people when they're making videos, they try to use their microphone in their telephone to record their audio, and it's really weak.
Right. Now, if you have a little Sony recorders, the drop mics, that's fine too.
Yeah.
As long as you're recording with a good digital recorder, that's fine.
Oh, yeah. Those dishes that you can point around, and those are cool. I've never owned one of those, but I've always seen them. It's like a really specific directional recording or directional microphone.
But I would rather not use parabolics.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll explain why. So parabolics are great for listening to movement, but the problem is that a lot of times we're in valleys or we're on mountains.
Right.
And what you get a lot of time when you use parabolics, they're not great sources, I believe, for recording good audio. Right? Because what you get when you hit those parabolics most of the time is with all the sound behind it.
Right.
They're way with the Zoom recorders, they are at a very nice level. Their mics are at a very good level to where, and you can put, and they have, wind socks for these. So you can, if it's a windy night, you can put a wind sock on. Of course, it's you're going to lose some of that distance.
Yeah.
Right. But you can put a wind sock on the recorders. But with a parabolic, you have a lot of background noise. So even when you're listening, you'd be surprised how much sound there is in the woods. Now, they're great. And yes, they're great for recording stuff too. Like, hey, this validates I heard something walking around. That's fine. But for this type of experiment, you want to use high-end recording equipment. A parabolic is great for sitting there saying, hey, there's something walking over here. And you may hear in the background, but then you hear, you hear walking. So, yeah.
Several years ago, I used to have a device that was called bionic ears, and you wore it around your neck. You wore the earphones, and wherever you were pointing this thing at, dude, you could hear. I mean, if somebody, crumpled up a dried leaf in their hand from 100 yards away, it's like blowing your eardrums out.
Right. Yeah.
But
well, they're based on parabolics too, a little bit too. So, and then you wear them on a windy day, and what do you hear?
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You walk outside in the least little breeze, and you're listening.
Here, let me make this a little bit better.
Yeah, least little breeze, and you're listening to a tornado.
Right.
But let's see. Oh wow! Again, thank you, Jay Fritz. So kind. Thank you so much, Jay.
Yes, Jay. Thank you. We're not worthy.
We're not worthy, Jay. Thank you. Grant Rasha says, I'd bring an aluminum bat just to confuse the squatches. Maybe it sounds like a different dialect to them.
Well, the problem with that is you might get a response, but you also might get them to be a little cautious. Now,
definitely metallic sound.
Yeah, one thing I do use, and it's kind of funny, that makes it nice, is I use an aluminum pot with the opening out. So when I smack that tree, it and it does sound like wood on wood. So
let's see. New one. Plan for Rail. Okay, welcome. Said I look in Illinois, knocked, got a sonic boom of a whoop came out of the woods. In that moment, I realized I'm not ready to see this creature.
Yeah. Yeah, and Playing for Real, glad to have you on the show, Glad. Thanks for commenting.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll see you a lot more. You never plan to see on them. I've seen 2 of them, Playing for Real. And I just looking this way, and what the flip? Froze me right in my tracks. It definitely shook me. And we've shown the video of the interview I had done because I had a good videographer with me at the time. I had my team out. Yeah. And the videographer came right. What happened? What'd you see? And my eyes are like, you see how my eyes are squinty? My eyes were like, and we're like, ooh. I didn't even realize it. So the other thing is inner-hit interval metrics. So you're going to analyze recordings using inner-hit intervals. I'm not going to get really technical on this, but NPV1, Normalized Pairwise Variability Index, is what you're going to use to measure those. And there's information online about that. I will also, what I'm going to eventually do is I'm going to get a SOP on this particular thing, and we'll have that information in there. And what that does, you can assess rhythmic structure if there's more than one knock. For all you know, there may be a knock every 7 minutes or 7.5 minutes or 7 minutes and 15 seconds or 7 minutes, 2 seconds. Good night, Chuck. Comparative studies, and again, this is what we're talking about, depositing a repository of Sasquatch percussive events and compare it with known chimpanzee data and compare it to, the data you gather from each one. Well, Grant, I don't want to discourage people. Shotgun mics are also very directional. So you want to have something that has a wide spread. And that's because you never know. If you have that boom mic going that way, it may miss something that's at 175 degrees. With the zooms, I can put a 180 or a 360 if I want to. Yeah. So that's the beauty of that. I can plop that there, put it 360. So if I'm walking out and I leave that particular area for, say, a few hours or whatever, you never know, what you may get.
Yeah, most of the time I see those guys using those parabolic mics, and the documentaries they're like scanning the horizon, looking for a sound.
Right. And then finally, what you want to do is controlled elicitation. So you want to conduct control knock experiments in suspected Sasquatch habitats to assess response patterns. Simple as that. Yeah. If you knock once, does it knock once back, or does it knock a repetition? Knock twice, see if it patterns you. Again, you have to do a very thorough job making sure your area is clear of other human beings that may be playing with you a bit. Because let's look at it this way. Since the show's Finding Bigfoot, a lot of people know what tree knocking is. So if you start tree knocking, somebody says, "Oh, I saw Finding Bigfoot. That's a Bigfoot," and they start knocking, and the next thing you know, you're knocking back and forth to another human.
Yeah. Yeah, you need to be a few miles back in the woods before you start your experiment.
Or you just got to make sure your area is clear.
Right.
Like my research area 1, at times I go in, usually there's not many people there. And the areas are so secluded that you can get away with tree knocking in one area, even though you may have somebody a half mile down the road, because they can't hear that.
Yeah.
So you got to be
really good coordination with your team if you go out with a team. And if you're by yourself, do the footwork. Go back in several miles.
Now to finish up this report, the findings by Eloteri et al. Offer unprecedented support for what Bigfoot researchers have long posted, that rhythmic percussive behavior in hominids is meaningful communicative behavior. If Sasquatch indeed is a relic hominid, it is reasonable to hypothesize that tree knocks and rock clacking are homologous to chimpanzee drumming. That convergence warrants serious structured investigation with the tools and analytical methods now available. The consistent recurrence of such behaviors in Bigfoot reports across North America, especially when matched by reciprocal or contextual appropriate responses, meets preliminary criteria for communicative behavior. Given the wide geographic distribution and potential cultural variation, Sasquatch percussion may hold key insights into the evolution of hominid communication. In conclusion, the presence of rhythmic, structured, and context-sensitive percussive communications in chimpanzees provides an evolutionary precedent that strengthens the plausibility of similar behaviors in Sasquatch. By shifting that perspective from folklore to comparative primatology, Bigfoot researchers can now frame their acoustic findings within a scientifically valid structure. Collaborative studies using modern bioacoustics and primate behavioral models can further legitimize and potentially validate these phenomena. So that is the paper in its completeness.
Good stuff. And this is really valid for a Bigfoot experiment.
Right.
With the proper results, maybe we could verify something's going on in the woods scientifically, and that means a lot.
Right.
Grasshopper's killing me over here, but Grasshopper says, if a Squatch knocks when you show up, are you considered knocked up or the knockee?
I don't know, but I've been knocked around before.
Good question.
I don't know.
Grant says, at Grasshopper, you are the considered an uninvited guest. Okay,
Probably.
that makes sense. Yeah. And Texas Jack says, Grasshopper, if you have a helper and are both polite, you are a nice pair of knockers. Makes sense. Very polite, yes. Very nice.
All the knock jokes tonight.
Oh, I don't know, Mick. Mick says, or you go into your research area one day and find that it's now a grow op. Then you then ask Mick to take one for the team moments before the shooting starts. Yeah, that's a bad thing, but normally, people don't grow their illicit items in the middle of the woods. They'll be in an open field somewhere because
actually, Grant, that's a good idea. Stuff like a baby rattle, a tambourine, anything to elicit some sort of response or draw them in for curiosity is a phenomenal idea. Remember, the primates' number one weakness is their curiosity. When things go boom, we go look, right? And sometimes to our own demise. Curiosity didn't kill the cat; it killed the Homo sapien. Is what it does a lot of times.
The night we were coyote hunting and we got that big ground thump, we were using a wounded rabbit call and a wounded rodent or distressed rodent call.
Yep.
And that's some terrible sounds, okay? But predators love that. They come after it. So I don't know if we called one in or what we did.
What did Grasshopper say or what? Put that up there.
See. Oh, Grant. Dang it, where's it at? Where'd it go? Oh no, no.
Yeah.
That one.
Put that one back on. No, put Grasshopper. Would you lose it again?
I lost it.
Jeez. Okay, don't touch it, Chris. Oh, there you go.
Gong. 5 foot gong.
You just took it off. Put it up.
That was Grant. There we go.
There you go. Wow, that was a process.
All that for a gong sound.
That was.
Okay.
That's right. I did. I know it took you all by surprise. I had that on there at first. Like, whoa, he mentioned a gun.
He's playing with the soundboard tonight. But he's doing a pretty good job. I'll tell you what, we got to give him a cheerio. He's been popping them sounds off the board just perfect.
Yep.
Oh man.
Anyway,
but good stuff. I mean, it's good stuff, and people's always wanted. If you want to prove Sasquatch exists, you got to use the science, and that's what we're doing.
Right.
We're figuring out ways to use the science to verify that we got some sort of communication going on out there in the woods. And by golly, if the chimpanzees in Africa can do it, I'll bet you our squatches in the United States can do it too. And
things can get weird. It's almost like we're in a parallel universe. Almost that this report came out.
Might even have a parallel universe where Tom Biscardi is honest.
No.
I doubt it.
I'd have to see it to believe it.
So, anybody else have
Can't wait for the retreat you're planning.
Yes, that's right. Grant wants to make it up here for the Whitehall Sasquatch Festival.
Yeah, that'll be right. And Grasshopper says 5-foot gong is a serious idea, or a metal pipe hanging down, something to make noise with. Yeah, I agree. Grasshopper, I agree 100%.
Yeah, anything that you can get your paws on to make something strange that will make them go, what was that? Let me investigate, is very important.
I wonder, you could like get some of those little...
That was good.
I wonder if we could get some of those little wind chimes and hang them in a tree or something out there.
No, I hate bleeping wind chimes.
Yes, but you know
I swear to God, if I see a neighbor doing that, I'm going to get up at 4 a.m. and make them disappear.
But see, you got to think about it though. The least little breeze that went through there would make that chime, and then hey, wait a minute, and then do that in conjunction with a trail cam. So when the big guy hears that noise, he comes to investigate what the heck is going on over here.
Yeah, that may be a great idea to put wind chimes way the hell out, so we're farther from my camp, so I don't hear the damn things.
Not for humans, right? Not for human enjoyment, but for Sasquatch intrigue.
You know, I remember, you know, it's like, oh, I like wind chimes. I put them up, and after about 3 days, I took them down. Like, I'm so sick of hearing those things. Yeah, they're great for a day. Which reminds me of something really funny when you said symbol. Have you ever watched the show Impractical Jokers?
No, I've probably watched a few minutes of it once, but I haven't caught a whole episode. No.
Okay, so do you understand the premise of Impractical?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so it's a bunch of friends, and they go out and they challenge each other, or they do challenges where they have to go and try to pull a prank as long as they can possibly do it. Yeah. And one of the pranks was to go into a library,
right,
and make a noise, and you get disqualified when people tell you to shush.
Oh, okay.
Right. And, they would come in and make, certain noises or whatever, and nobody was doing it. And each joker would give a bag to the other joker to go in because they didn't know what was in the bag.
Right.
And whatever was in the bag, they had to use. And one of my favorite jokers is Sal. Love Sal. He's afraid of cats. It's hysterical. But anyway, they send Sal into the library, and he's got this bag, and he opens it up, and you just see his face. It was a flippin' symbol. So what does he do? He looks at it, and you see him look over where the hidden camera is and goes. So he takes the symbol out of the bag very quietly. He looks around. He bangs it in the middle of the library, and he just gets up and walks out. Lose.
Yeah, that's an instant loss right there. You're not going to get to stick around a library with one of those.
I actually saw the Impractical Jokers live way back about 10 years ago, and I tell you what, tears came to my eyes. I've seen 3 comedians in my life on stage. All 3 brought tears to my eyes.
Right.
The first one I saw was Bill Cosby.
Yeah.
Whoa. Before all the...
Yes, before we knew.
And he does a great... put all that other stuff aside, he does a great show.
Yeah, I'd like to do that, Grant. I'm going to have a RV, though, before I can do that.
The second comedian I saw was the Impractical Jokers, and then just a few years ago, and he comes up every January. I saw Vic DiBitetto, who was the bread and milk guy. And if anybody has ever watched Ticked Off Vic or Vic DiBitetto, hysterical. Typical Jersey guy. I mean, he brought up in New York, and just it's New York comedy at its greatest, and New York, New Jersey comedy.
Right.
And you know, we talk about snowstorms here, and maybe Chris, you don't get it, or maybe Texas Jack won't. But every time there's a big storm, there always seems to be a run in the stores on bread and milk. So, you know, I gotta, you know, and you would go to a store knowing a storm's tomorrow and all the bread's gone, all the milk is gone.
Yeah.
Right? So there was a story, it was before a storm was supposed to be going on, and you see him running around. I got to get the bread and milk. I got to get the bread and milk. He get in the car. I got to get the bread and milk. I got to get the bread and milk. And that video went viral. It was like, you know, 2 million hits off it, and that's really put him in the spotlight. But then about 4 or 5 months later, he did a repeat. He did Bread and Milk Part 2.
Yeah.
And it's snowing like a banshee out there, and he's sitting in a snowbank. You see him sitting there looking around. All of a sudden, he's got bread, and he's sticking bread in his mouth, and he's washing it down with milk.
Okay, I get that. Oh man, yeah, we don't really have big snowstorms here, but you know, I can remember a time when people were, you know, thought they were going to live off toilet paper or something. I don't know why, but nonsense. Anytime there's people. They're afraid they can't go outside. They have to stock up on stupid items. Well, I mean, in my opinion, stupid items. You remember the day they the week they shut down the country. I was sitting there on my chair with, with my crown on. I had my feet up on a pack of toilet paper, and I had my head back on a pack of paper towels. Yeah, we did the first show. Started out with gas masks on. Yeah. Afraid we would pass the I don't even want to talk about it. Yeah, those are some fun times. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I tell you, I never wanted to go back to work so much in my life. Well, for me, it was no big deal. Let's stay home anyway. But you not being able to go out and buy stuff at the store, toilet tissue, that's kind of aggravating. But you live and you learn, You order one of those bidet seats and and you're better off for it. Oh, man. Yeah, that's right. That's right, Mick. You invest in a good bidet and then you don't worry about that toilet tissue ever again. But they did a South Park episode on those. Or no, that was Japanese toilets. But it's the same thought. Same thought. Anyway, boy, this topic. Why does the topic always go to this? We got on bathroom humor now. We got to get away from that. Yeah. Oh gosh. Oh, that was a good episode. Yeah, the brown noise, South Park. Yeah, that was Grant. That was a good episode. See, everybody in here, they watch South Park. So, SJ, hold on. We do have a serious comment. SJ, I recorded a loud knock in response to shaking a small section of sheet metal. Very interesting. SJ, welcome, by the way, to the show. Yeah. Glad to have you here. Welcome aboard. Well, we always want to. Hope you stick with us a while. We appreciate having everybody in the chat. And you guys get, a lot of times, Steve will be talking about something serious, and I'll be over here cracking up because I'm reading the chat. And you guys kill me, but thank you so much. Oh, that would be cool. Yeah. Grant says Alice Cooper and Judas Priest are at SPAC on the 27th, same time as Whitehall. We should try to get Alice Cooper to go on a Squatch hunt. Well, I don't know if he'll go on a Squatch hunt, but it'd be kind of cool if he shows up at the festival. Yeah, that would be cool. Because it's just the kind of gig he'd like, visiting and checking out. Yeah, you would think, but when Alice Cooper, he's getting kind of up there in age, and he's probably not interested in that stuff. I don't know. But if you're watching Alice, yeah, come on up, man. And Alice, he's extremely intelligent. He is the most normal guy in the world, too. Oh yeah, I used to listen to his radio show. It was awesome. Played some good music too. And the commentary about each song, each group, genius. Genius. The man's a genius. He knows his business. That's what I'll say.
Well, anyway, Chris, anything you want to say about this topic before we start to go into our wrap up? Because we've got 14 minutes left before we get out of here.
I don't know, man. I mean, I can't say anything more than you just did. I'm just extremely excited that this had come up. And, it cements what we've been thinking and talking about for years, about this has got to be some form of communication. And by golly, if it's a scientific fact that the chimpanzees do it now, then we have a very good reason to believe that we've been on the right track all along.
Well,
but now,
as I've always said, when Sasquatch is found to exist, I believe it's actually going to be even closer to us than the chimpanzees.
Mm-hmm. I believe so too. Yeah.
So if the chimpanzees are doing it, whatever's between the chimps and us is probably doing it as well.
Right. I believe so too.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that
interesting to see if gorillas or orangutans or any of the other, pongid species monkeys do similar things. That would be my thought if I was the scientist that did the chimpanzee study. Okay, let's look at bonobos. Let's look at the billy apes, see if they have their own. Because billy apes are technically chimpanzees. They're 100% DNA match, but they have a completely different cultural skill set. They are more nocturnal. They walk more upright. They're a little bit larger, but they still have the same DNA.
Hey, Matt, Central Kentucky Bigfoot made it in. You want to catch the replay, Matt? This is a cool show.
Yes, he did. But really, the more people we can on board doing this type of research, the more we can harvest the results from. But they have to be very, very specific, because somebody says, well, I recorded this, while I was out at this forest. Well, what's the coordinates? Because we need to, you got to tell me where in the forest you were. You got to, and there's so much other stuff. Data collection of reports from that area. There are just so many different aspects of this. But you can make a pretty compelling case if you get all this stuff in line. And that's what we have failed to do for, we're going to bring one in, and nobody comes equipped to bring one in. Think about it. Not even Carmine.
But what Steve has proposed here is, doing our own Bigfoot study for Sasquatch drumming sounds or tree knock sounds, and see if we can match up some data with the chimpanzee data that they. So let me.
I'm going to spill the beans on something.
Mm-hmm.
People go to the website. They see coming soon Project Forest Stalker.
Mm-hmm.
So what Project Forest Stalker is putting together people for the purpose of science and for the purpose of putting this mystery to an end using science. What Project Forest Stalker is a boots on the ground effort, but it's also an academic effort as well, correlating the data we get from the field with known primate research. Does it all match up? And eventually, we want to get DNA sampling that will prove what we've been saying all along. Because we're at the point with DNA, like, I remember the big argument back in the early 2000s was, well, if we get DNA, we won't know what it is, so they won't acknowledge it's real. Well, now, since those days, we've come up with genomes. We've come up with the typing. So when we have the chimpanzee genome and the human and the Homo sapien genome and the billy ape and the orangutan and all the others, we get this unknown sample. We can look at the genomes and see where they fall on the scale. Well, this is not quite a Homo sapien, but it's not quite a chimpanzee. It falls somewhere in between there. You don't need anything, and we haven't discovered this before. Boom. You don't need to prove anything else. You don't need to have that body anymore.
Yeah, the DNA science has surpassed the point to where they were saying, oh, this is because they found human DNA similarities. They say, oh, it's contaminated. No, not anymore. Not anymore.
Right. Right. Exactly. And now they have ways of cleaning DNA to remove that human, any contaminated way of removing certain contaminations. So I think, we need to go on the right path here. Huge that we do. So that's what Project Forest Stalker is all about. And there is going to be quite a video element of that as well. Uh-oh, Chris is...
I'm looking up for a chimpanzee DNA.
Chris is going to download the geome now, and he's going to check his own DNA.
I'm going to build a chimpanzee here on the computer.
Well, Chris is going to send that genome to Ancestry.com, and they're going to come back and say, well, Chris, you're a chimpanzee.
You're right. Some of the samples that have been taken on chimpanzees have reported 98.8% human DNA within the chimpanzee genome. So if Sasquatch is closer to us than a chimpanzee would be, then it's going to be almost, probably 99% or whatever.
You know what amazed me? That eventually when we get the DNA sample we want, it's like 97.3. Really, like, what the hell? We all thought it was,
Right.
And it could be.
It could be, yeah.
Could be. I'm just taking a wild guess there. Just a gut feeling that it's going to be a little closer to the chimpanzee, but I could be wrong. Been wrong before, and I'm willing to admit that. So, well, anyway, Chris, let's wrap the show up for tonight.
All right. Well, guys, thanks for hanging out with us tonight. We appreciate you. Everybody in the chat, you guys have been killing me tonight. If it's your first time watching, which I know most of you guys are regulars, and we appreciate you because we know we got the greatest audience we could ever hope to have. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Any new people that showed up tonight, welcome. And if you hadn't already subscribed to the channel, please do so. Hit that button. Smash the like button on your way out if you hadn't already. Thank you so much. It helps us with the YouTube algorithm. And all you guys listening over on the podcast, make sure you get by the YouTube channel at youtube.com/@SquatchDTV. And make sure you check out that channel. And if you want to subscribe to it, if you think it's worthy, go ahead. If you don't, well, just keep listening on the podcast. We still love you. All right.
I like the soundboard tonight.
I don't know if that worked or not, but yeah.
That goes back to the blog talk days. People used to bitch at me for using the soundboard too much. Anyway.
No, that's good. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
Okay, roger that, John. And folks, on behalf of us here at Squatch-D TV, we want to wish everybody a happy and great week. Don't forget, this Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, really bad Bigfoot movie night, where we watch another stinker. And thank you again, Jay, for gifting 5 gift memberships. So we'll see you all this Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here, Squatch at youtube.com/Squatch-DTV. We'll see everybody here. And everybody, keep it squatchy, and most of all, keep on squatch.
We thank you for being here with us on Squatch-D TV. If you haven't taken the time yet, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And oh yes, hit that notification bell too. We don't want you to miss anything. If you really like our content, you should consider becoming a member, and it's really inexpensive and a great way to support not only the show, but honest Bigfoot research. Everyone have a great week. Be safe and God bless. We will see you all here next time on Squatch-D TV. Keep on squatching.